It's been a brilliant, brilliant day. I'm going to hand over to you, Kath, to close the day with your comments.
Thank you. Thank you ever so much, Lou. And thank you to everybody for your fabulous contributions. It's fascinating. This is the third year that I've attended. And, in my active listening mode, delighted once again with the journey, with the successes, with the learner progress that has been evidenced through the hard work that people have been doing. May I just make a number of points that have really struck me during the day. And I'm sure there are other things that have hit you. And we've had that question running throughout the day, because this is action research. This is not research for research's sake. This is doing something with the research, with the innovation, adapting it, of course, to your own context, your own settings, but getting inspired and taking something out of the day. And action research, of course, is the practical trying out of something and then evaluating, reviewing, how did it go, or what could be better? Right, I'll tweak it again. And it's that professional, reflective practice that action research gives you a framework or a structure to go through. Now, just on action research, once again, I think you have absolutely smashed it and proved the power of action research for professional development and as a method and approach of professional development. So congratulations to everybody who has been involved for that. And I would strongly encourage others to consider action research as an approach, an alternative to going on a training course and coming back and then trying to implement it. I loved the fluency of the moving between the research and the practice and the literature, published literature by other people, from their research and the practice. And we tried this out and we were curious and it didn't quite work out. So we went back and that really came together very well this year, more than previous. So for those who weren't aware, this is the first year there have been multiple action research cycles within the year. Previously, an academic year was one cycle. So you went through, establish your research focus, then do your kind of field work or your trying out in practice, and then analyze it and make your conclusions. This year, everyone did at least 2 cycles of action research, and it gives more of a dynamism, it gave more of a flow. Really impressed by that. The other big step forward this year that I've picked up on, and it's because it's a non-COVID year largely, is the collaboration between institutions, between settings, between colleges. And that brought a whole nother level of richness. And it showed, does the same approach work in multiple settings? Not just between different teachers in the same setting, but across and that, that's really, really fizzy, really interesting too. So for everyone who had multiple classes or multiple teachers involved or multiple settings, congratulations there. That was really good. It brought a lot to the party, and we were able to do that this year in a way we simply haven't been able to. Now, there's a maturity to this research. There was an assuredness this year about how you were speaking, how people were putting things across. And it's taken 3 years at least to get there. This doesn't happen overnight. There's been a lot of learning about research methods in the background that you don't see. Now, also this year, very noticeable, the focus was much more on the maths and on what worked in the maths and how to and pedagogy of maths. Now that to some extent squeezed out, but also I think we as the audience have to trust that there is an evidence base behind that. And that was important this year. We really talked about pushing and innovating and pushing forward and what the maths investigations, implementations are really telling us. And that's been really good. But to see the evidence base, you will have to go to the full research reports, which are being submitted over the summer, and then we'll go through a review process and will be published in the autumn. Okay. So people who like to know what data is, what the sample size is, that's where it will be. Okay. There were, you know, as you can tell, I'm not a maths teacher, I'm about research. So the quality of research, you know, that really does matter, because it's about the credibility, it's about whether it's something to keep going with and implement again as you start again in September with your new cohorts. That's really important. Okay, I was also struck by the openness of sharing, a willingness to share resources. Comes across very strongly again and again. And that's wonderful, because as I'm from the Education and Training Foundation, the professional body for FE, and we would set as well, and we would say that that's FE maths sector leading its own innovation, leading its own improvement. That's really important. It's really important. HE do it. They have a lot of autonomy, a lot of say, a lot of clout too, and so the schools, and FE too. So you know, that's really good. Okay. Now, getting down to a little bit of the teaching and learning nitty-gritty, there were certain themes or certain approaches that had been tried out in the action research that came across again and again and again in the 7 presentations that we've seen today. So some common themes from there, just to refresh memories. Starting how you mean to carry on. So starting in September, maybe, with the introduction of something or a change or a way that you want to work with learners. Hard to start, it's hard to introduce something halfway through the year. So at the beginning of the year, start off with what you want to carry on with, if it's possible. I was interested in the carefulness that people put their small groups of learners together to support each other and make success, allowing time for teachers and learners to familiarize themselves with something new, a new approach, and sequencing that, how to introduce something, model it, have time to get used to it, regularly repeat it, do questions together with the teacher, do questions in groups, do questions independently, and then try, you know, then apply what you've learned to an exam question. That sequence comes up again and again. And lowering the risks, whether it's through humor or whether it's through a starter activity, whether it's, you know, whatever it's through, whichever device, just lowering the stakes, lowering the risk, letting people be honest, or like Michael said, even if they're wrong, respect what their voice is. So in that way, you're lowering the risks, and there's not so much right or wrong. So there could be lots I could add to that list. Something that came up as well a lot was this idea of the metacognition. I'll give you some examples. In one of the presentations, it was the 4 steps, asking a learner, what maths topics does this question cover? What do I already know? What is the question actually asking? What steps do I need to do? So in other words, you're thinking about the thinking of maths, so thinking about the maths. Another example of that, asking students, just getting to find out what students really thought when they are presented by a question. What's their thinking about the question, not just jumping to try and get them to answer the question, but in other words, we're asking them, and research is perfect, action research is perfect. Ask your learners, what are they feeling? What are they thinking? What's going through their head? Ask them. A lot of people are not asking their learners, and you can't move forward if you don't actually know what's going through their head particularly. And another way of doing the same thing, the say what you see approach, getting the learner to articulate. So you've got a dialogic approach, getting people to articulate what they're seeing, to verbalize it, and then you can see, there's the misconception or whatever it may be. Very strong theme that came through. Okay. There was a major concern about behaviour that came up again and again, and part of it's linked to use of phones on task, which is linked to engagement and motivation. And one of our other CFEM lives is on maths resilience, we're calling it this year, but it builds upon our previous years of work on maths motivation and maths engagement. All sorts of approaches have been taken to that, and we're coming to some sort of consensus or body of materials as we are on the area of mastery on maths resilience. And those materials, as we come to the end of the CFEM programme over the next 6 months, 8 months, are being written up and will be produced and will be freely available on the CFEM web pages of the ETF. At the moment, we're calling them the CFEM Legacy. It's everything we're drawing together, and that's coming out of this CFEM program. Okay, so I'm going to finish off with this action point that we've been thinking about all the way through today, which is a massive encouragement to use at least something of what you have heard, to adapt it and to implement it. And then, how did it go? Reflective practitioner, how did it go? Did it work? What do I need to tweak? Or maybe if it didn't work for everybody, how can I do it differently so that it works for even more students next time? Use the research. Please use it. Please have a go in your own classrooms. This has been a joyous occasion. I'm privileged. Thank you very, very much. I'll hand back to Lou.